So I've been thinking about doing a video on game management, and I think that this particular video right here is going to help you guys win so many more games. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get right into it. What is up, guys? Sam from the Madden YouTube channel, and I know many of you guys are still struggling on defense in Madden 22. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to avoid the practice field. I'm just going to talk straight to you guys and kind of help you guys understand what you guys need to start doing from a game management standpoint. Never have I ever recalled a game like Madden 22 where defense is just so difficult that truthfully, clock management becomes the way that you win games. If you guys have the ball, that means your opponent can't score. You guys need to control the time of possession no matter what in your game. So we're going to present two different scenarios today in this video that we're going to talk about. One about how to manage a game if you have ball first, and then the other is going to be what if you have the ball at halftime. So let's go ahead and talk first and foremost, what happens when you receive the opening kickoff. Now, for me personally, obviously, when you have the ball first, you have to score points. You have to get 3 or you have to get 7. If you guys come away with 0 on your first drive, I'm going to bet that your chances of winning that ball game go down probably to below 30%. Doesn't matter what opponent you guys are playing in Madden 22. I would say if you come away empty on your first drive, that is basically ball game. And here's why. You basically, if you have the ball first and you score, whether it be 3 or 7, you're going to do that towards the tail end of the first quarter. Chances are somewhere, a minute and a half to go in the first quarter. And if you guys are playing on All Pro in Weekend League, these are 4-minute quarters, I believe. Either way, milking time off the clock is not difficult, and we will get to that momentarily. When you score in the first quarter to go up 3 or 7-0, this is your first opportunity to win the ball game on defense. I personally believe in playing very, very aggressive on my first defensive drive when I have had the ball first in a ball game. And here's why. Your opponent is thinking in their mindset that they want to double dip the chip. We will get to that here momentarily when we talk about what happens when you have the ball at half. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you play aggressive. This is going to do two things. First and foremost, it's going to give you more opportunities for sacks, for fumbles, for balls thrown in traffic, for those interceptions, for you to get the ball back with the lead already and go up 2 possessions, which is effectively the death knell of Madden 22. If you go up 2 possessions in this game, this is really the first year that I can recall that 10 points feels like 100. So simply because defense is hard to get those stops. So you want to play aggressive on defense. The second thing that that's going to do for you is it's also going to allow you to get the ball back. This is really, really important because when you get the ball back in the first half, that needs to be the last possession of the first half, no matter what. We'll get into true milking here momentarily when we talk about the fourth quarter, but you guys need to understand that you're going to be using these milking principles that I'm going to talk about later on in this video in the third quarter, especially when your opponent has the ball at half. Because what you need to do is you need to be able to take that lead back, or let's say that your opponent, after you score 3, gets a touchdown, you're now down 3-7. You have to get that lead back with a touchdown of your own to make certain that you are at least up at half and they have no time to possess the ball because they've got the ball coming out. Now, let's say that you've done this. You've either taken the lead and gone up 14-7 or 10-7, or you've gotten that lead back, right? Your opponent now has the ball to possess in the third quarter. This is where I will keep the lid on my defense. So that first defensive possession, when my opponent had the ball for the first time after I scored to open the game, I play really aggressive. The second half, when my opponent has the ball, we've gotten that lead going right into half. That is where I keep the lid on. What this does is actually also twofold. If you recall, your first defensive possession was very, very aggressive. Your opponent probably learning their 5-out blitz beaters against you, probably taking their chunk yardage plays. They've got it in their mind that you are a reckless defensive player and that there are holes in your defense to exploit, or that they can expect the blitz to come. When you've taken that lead 10-7 or 14-7 or whatever the lead is, you are going to want to keep the lid on because you want to kind of play differently than you did in the first half, but also you want to start managing the clock from a defensive perspective. A lot of people don't understand that you can manage the clock from the defensive side of the ball. And what I mean by that is simply do not allow them to have one play touchdowns. You want to keep the lid on. You know, if there's a bunch beater that requires a deep half over the top that you have to respect, play the deep half every time and make them check it down. It's okay to give up a scoring drive in the trade-off that you get, you know, 4 minutes of possession milked off of that clock. It's almost like you're playing offense while playing defense. If you think about it, you've got a 14-7 lead. There's 8 minutes of ball game left to go. Your opponent has the ball and you're saying, you know what, you can score, but it's going to take you 4.5 minutes. And if you do score, okay, fine. I've got the ball with 3.5 minutes to go or 4 minutes to go. And if you don't score, it's game over. So you're making them really matriculate their way down the field to tie you or to take a slight lead at the very, very most. Now, this ends up turning the game into the fourth quarter where now you've got the ball for what is called the guap drive. This is the drive where it's all on you and you need to just score. And ultimately, this is where we go into milk mode. Now, what you want to do when you are playing in milk mode is you need to cut the field down into basically, I do it as 15-yard segments, so I know it's 10 yards for a first down. But if you cut it from 10 yards for a first down to 15 yards, that's going to give you a little bit of extra field to play with because not everybody just gets 10 yards in a first down. You know, the completion sometimes is a gain of 7 on a, you know, a 3rd down and 3, and, you know, you've gone an extra 4 or 5 yards than what you actually needed to pick up the first down. So I will treat every 15 yards of field as 2 minutes of clock. So in Madden, the play clock is 30 seconds. So you've got 4 downs to make a first down. And if you take as much of that time or, you know, whittle it down as close to, you know, 5 seconds or less on the clock, every single snap, you are going to pick up a first down in exchange for, you know, roughly 1:40 on average per set of downs, right? So if you think about a 4-minute game, you are going to need, in the best case scenario, 2 first downs to milk 4 minutes, provided your opponent doesn't have timeouts. You're going to need a 3rd first down if they do have their full set of timeouts to milk away a game. So when you think of 3 sets of downs at 15 yards is kind of the amount of field I want to use for 2 minutes. You need 3 of those. So that's 45 yards. So if you get the ball at any point in the 4th quarter, I will take the touchback. And the reason you want to take the touchback is that you want to make sure that you have as much field to play with as possible. 25 yards is, you know, by our accounts, almost 2 first downs. I'm saying 15 yards because you, again, a completion is going to be a little bit more than, you know, exactly 10 yards for you to get that first down. But, you know, you get to midfield. That should take you, if you're a good clock manager and you start to practice this should take you only about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes off of the, you know, the 4 minutes that you're trying to milk, right? Now you're in a spot where you're getting close to the 2-minute warning, and now your opponent's going to use the timeouts. If it's a game where you just need a field goal to win, now you're a first down away from winning the ball game. If it's a situation where you need a touchdown, you're in a perfect spot because, you know, now you've got 50 yards to go. You're at the 2-minute warning. Your opponent only has 3 timeouts. You can now play a little bit more aggressively from that point forward, get down inside the 20, and then you milk it down and there's going to be no time. It's do or die in that spot. And you can, you know, feel comfortable knowing that you had the ball last and you had your chance to win the game on your own. So I hope that you guys understand that that is what we do when we have the ball first. If you guys are enjoying this free YouTube content, I would strongly urge you to go over to my strategy website. GridironGamePlans.gg is your one-stop source for all things competitive Madden. Every week in our Vault Update, we take a look at the meta, or the most effective tactics available being used by pro players on the MCS circuit, breaking down not only how and why the pros do what they do, but most importantly, how you can counter those metas when you face them in online gameplay. On top of that, your subscription also includes any and every offensive and defensive game plan released on the website while your subscription is active, and access to our Discord server, where every single Wednesday, we have a live lab session covering the week's vault content and any questions you guys have about Madden. So make sure you guys head over to GridironGamePlans.gg. $9.95 per month unlocks the entire website. Now, I want to talk about what happens when we have the ball second, because that script is a completely different script than what happens when you have the ball first to open a game. So when I have the ball at half, the way that I prefer to play at all costs on my first drive of the ball game is to keep the lid on. If I hold my opponent to 3, or even better, force them into a mistaken 0, I win that game. We talked about in the previous, when you have the ball first, if you come away empty, chances are you're only going to win 2 out of 10 games coming away empty on your first drive, 3 out of 10 at the most, if you come away empty on your first drive. Basically, a 2-possession lead is a death knell. So when your opponent has the ball first to open a game, meaning you have the ball at half, you employ the strategy that we use when you are basically playing defense in the third quarter when your opponent has the ball at half, which is keep the lid on. So what we are doing there is effectively saying if we can hold our opponent to 3, that gives us a possession in the second quarter to go up 7-3 with the ball at half. And you guys know that if you can score coming out of half to make it 14-3, the ball game's over. Now, if they score 7, that's okay. You need to treat your first drive of the first half, after you've kept the lid on and they've scored a touchdown, you need to basically milk the entire second quarter out. What you cannot afford to do is score in the second quarter, making it 7-7 with 1:30 left, and your opponent could go down and get 3 or 7, because now your drive after halftime when you get the ball is to tie or take a partial lead of 4 points. You don't want that. So you need to make sure that you play the second quarter like you would the fourth quarter in a game in which you have the ball last. So you need to, again, divide the field down into 15s, 2 minutes for 15 yards. And you need to do that until you can get yourself into a spot where your opponent has no timeouts, and at all costs, absolutely positively all costs, it is okay to take 3 points as the time expires at the end of the first half to make certain that you are only down 4 points and having the ball coming out. Because in the third quarter, when you get the ball coming out, you're either up 7-3, you're either tied 7-7, or you're down 3-7. All 3 of those scenarios are completely acceptable. And here's why. If you're down by 4, what you are doing here is scoring a touchdown coming out of half to go up 3 at the tail end of the third quarter, or the very, very, very early fourth. If it is tied 7-7, you're going to play for the field goal to take the partial lead of 3 points, or the touchdown to take a full 1-possession lead. Once you've done this, you are now up somewhere between 3, 4, 7 points at the most. And at that point, you as a defensive player play extremely, extremely aggressive. Extremely aggressive. If you have a 3 to 7 point lead and your opponent has the ball to open up the fourth quarter, you play extremely, extremely aggressive. Kind of like what you would do on your first defensive possession of a game when you had the ball first. The goal here is not to play defense as if a stop gets you a win. The goal here is to play defense with the mindset that you're going to create turnover opportunities for yourself, blitzing, making them throw into coverage, things like that. And if they're going to score, they're going to do it quickly so that you're either, down 3 or down 4, and you have a chance to send it to overtime or win with a game-winning touchdown on your last drive. Again, when you will end up being able to, manage the clock with the ball in your possession, meaning you get the last set of points. I will say that in the fourth quarter, if your opponent has the ball and you are up 3, I think you play aggressive the entire way, because the last thing you want to do is let them just get into field goal range, where the worst case scenario is you're heading to overtime and your game is won and lost on a coin flip, or they can then milk you and score a touchdown to beat you, and always have the field goal in their back pocket if they need to just spike the ball down and kick a field goal as time expires. If your opponent has the ball in the fourth quarter and you're up 7, I will kind of keep the lid on until they cross midfield, maybe my 40-ish, and then I'll play aggressive, with like 3 minutes to go, just because I'm okay with them chunk yardaging me. I don't want them to score with 15 seconds left in the game and me not have my timeouts to get back in the field goal range for a chippy field goal win. So I hope that you guys understand the 2 different scenarios that I just laid out in front of you. That is the blueprint that I personally use. And I feel like since I've held myself to these rules, I have started to win far more games. Now, the other thing to consider too is that I play a defense that is very, very difficult to move on as is. I played matching principles. I really understand my craft in coverage. I keep the lid on when I need to. I can blitz out of it and surprise you at any point in time. So this actually feeds into my defensive strategy that I use on my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. So if you guys head over to gridirongameplans.gg, again, $9.95 a month, covers the entire website. That's weekly vault updates. That's every single offensive and defensive game plan on the website. That's access to our Discord server. It's going to give you everything that you guys need to improve your Madden game. And you guys can apply this video and this kind of blueprint for managing a game to your online head-to-head gameplay. And I promise you, if you guys follow these rules that I just laid forward in this video, you will absolutely positively win more games online. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, drop those below. I always like to see what you guys are thinking about the content here on the channel. Make sure you guys subscribe. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow with our next video upload. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.